Welcome back to your live continuing coverage of NAB 2017 here live in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Las Vegas Convention Center in the Vitec Video Group booth on the Teradek set. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. I am really excited about our next guests. You guys are pretty cool people and you have some great products. You're part of the Vitec Video Group family. Vinten is one of the brands that is part of the Vitec Video Group family, and you guys make some really, really great products. So we've got Tom and James and Neil, and the newest product that you guys are showing off, we're using here. On this set, it's how we have our cameras become robotic cameras, PTZs, pan, tilt, and zoom cameras, and this is the new head to do that, and it's called the Vantage. It's like one of my favorite cars, the Aston Vantage. Tell me about, you guys do all sorts of stuff with tripods and heads and all sorts of things, but tell me about making heads that are robotic pan, tilt, and zoom. And I'm going to get into this, why I think this is a great idea as opposed to buying a pan, tilt, and zoom camera.
Great, so my name's James. I'm the product marketing manager. And as you said, Vinten is one of the premium brands in the broadcast industry. It offers a complete range of both manual up to robotic supports. And so one of the great things is, as a customer, we start off with the Vision Blue series of tripods, right up to the high-end robotics. So things such as the FE 165 elevation units, or the really big, super big robotic heads. And Vinten as a brand is very famous for innovation. And so we've taken all our knowledge of innovation and what the customer needs to create this fantastic brand new robotic heads called the Vinten Vantage.
Now, what's nice about being able to do a robotic head, right, is that you can take any camera then and make it pan and tilt. And so you don't have to be stuck with a PTZ, a pan, tilt, zoom camera, which, look, there are plenty of nice ones out there, but they might not give you the exact look you want or feel you want, and you don't have the most control, and certainly it's not the camera you chose, you chose that camera because of what it does. So now you're giving people the ability to take whatever camera they have, whatever camera they want, and effectively make it that.
Yeah, the key thing is with the Vantage, or with any robotic head for that matter, is you get the choice of the camera and the lens that match your requirements. It may well be that you need a wide angle lens to get the particular focusing that you need, or maybe you've got a camera position that's high up, way back from what you're trying to focus on, so you need a good telephoto lens. So by giving the producer the option to select the products they best need, they're not fixed with a PTZ's internal camera and lens. It's about flexibility, it's about giving choice to the producer.
How much weight can the Vantage hold?
10 pounds. It's designed to take any good sized camera and good sized lens. It's not designed to put prompters on. One of the other advantages of it is because it's remotely controlled, you don't actually need to be close to the point where you're using it. So maybe you've got a remote studio that you want to access, you could have a single operator station, and you could be accessing multiple studios with multiple programs.
Wow, so and so you could be completely off-site is what you're saying?
You could be the other side of the country if you wanted to.
Yeah. Or world.
Or the other side of the world, for sure.
Does it, I mean, depending on the camera, I guess, would depend on whether you can control the zoom as well, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, the camera needs to offer you some way of remotely controlling it. With the Vantage, we offer LANC support, or LAN-C as some people call it. This is a fairly common protocol that Sony introduced many years ago. So if you have a camera and a lens that supports LANC, then we can remotely control it. We also have a serial port control in the head, so any camera that has RS-232 or 422, we can support that. And Canon, they have their own dedicated interface and protocol that's an extension of the LAN-C protocol. We can also interface with those. One of the beauties of the Vantage, though, is though it's aimed at those mid-level, those pro video cameras and pro video DSLRs, it will also support the large broadcast and ENG lenses that you see traditionally on our higher-end robotics as well.
I think that's phenomenal. Here we're using Canon cameras, and so I think that shows off the versatility. Obviously we can pan, tilt, and zoom with these cameras, and maybe we could get our wonderful tech crew who works so diligently behind the scenes from Blaze Streaming Media, which is made up of Peter and Kimberly and just a wonderful group of people along with the Teradek team. Maybe we can get them to show us a little bit of the camera movement and a little bit of how it works. Let's see if that's possible, guys. Is it possible without giving you too much trouble? Here we go. So we're going to see some movement. and there's a nice little zoom, right? So that's a Canon camera. It's got its own protocol, and we see a little zoom. Can we see a little panning and maybe tilting? There we go. How about a little pan and tilt, and you're moving. You're completely controlling the camera. It's a nice little joystick. Now, if I wanted to buy the head, the Vantage head, is the joystick controller. I imagine it's separate because you're not going to want one. You're not going to want one controller for every head. You're going to have one controller for multiple cameras.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the other exciting things at NAB for us this year is we've just introduced a new control system. So we've got a new all-in-one PC, touchscreen, all of the electronics in the case with a separate joystick, and that gives access to both controlling our robotics, the Vantage head, but also traditional PTZs. So if you want to mix it with the Sony BRCs, the Panasonic PTZs, you can mix and match those with it as well.
You can?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's
so
really
we're trying
cool.
to give very, very broad support and allow the end user to use what they want.
You guys are very versatile. So the controller that's here, that Peter was just using, thank you, Peter, is you buy a computer with it.
Yes, it's a complete system.
So how much
with
does that
our software.
cost?
That's $3,500.
Okay, and then you buy the heads. You could buy 10 heads, or you could actually technically you could buy 0 heads. You could use it with the PTZs you have.
You could.
Yeah.
You absolutely could.
And how much are the heads?
$7,000.
Okay, so
and then you have to put your camera on top of that as well.
So you got for the first camera and controller, it's about $10,000, and then after that, it's $7,000 for each head. Now, do I tell you which camera I'm going to hook it up to, or you give me the connections for all of them?
Well, we don't give you connections for everything because not every camera.
Well, I don't mean
have
everything. I meant you give me Lank and RS422, and then you give me the Canon protocol.
Absolutely. So we basically do give a list. We do give a compatibility matrix to make it easy for people. But as a general rule, if it's a LAN-C, a Sony LAN-C camera, and Hitachi, JVC, as well as Sony, they support that interface. So as long as it's got that connector on it, then it will work with our robotic head.
And okay, so the head has all the connections ready for it always. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And another thing about the head, which is quite unique for this particular end of the market, is that it can be integrated into a VR set. So the head will also output positional data. So if you want to do virtual reality, if you want to do augmented reality, you can also do that with our head and the camera system.
Wait a second, hold on. Take a step back now. I do a lot of VR 360 stuff. That's very cool. I'll take a 360 camera and put it on your head?
Not a 360 camera. So with robotics, the VR system needs to understand where the camera's pointing.
Right.
So it needs to know what the pan and tilt is, it needs to know what the zoom and focus is, and that gets fed into the VR system, and that's what allows the VR system to overlay the computer graphics.
Very nice.
But you wouldn't get that with something like a PTZ camera.
Right, absolutely. So now, I think we've seen 2 use cases, a studio like this, and certainly for VR. Where else do you see this fitting in?
It's the application to it is really, really broad. We're seeing a lot of adoption of this type of thing in houses of worship. They're doing a lot of program material, either archive material, or they want further reach with their material. It could be corporate users. We're beginning to see far more corporate users wanting to do their own in-house videos now. Maybe you want to broadcast something from the CEO out to remote locations. So rather than bring in a production company to do it every time, they're building their own small studios. But the really exciting side of it is internet TV. Mm-hmm. There are so many people who can stream production material to the web now.
Yeah.
And you can just, for a relatively small amount of money, put a full production studio together.
My company, Be Terrific, we do. We're an OTT. We do all sorts of live original programming online with a positive undertone. So the idea is we do positive live original programming. We do live event coverage and build pop-up studios much like this one at live events like NAB, CES, all sorts of things. We're an official media partner. We use PTZs. We also have a studio in Secaucus, New Jersey, and then we do a lot of on-location shoots. And I think that this is perfect for all of those applications, and it allows us to step up the quality of what we're doing, because a lot of times we use PTZs, which in some cases can work really nice, but in other cases you want better lenses, better cameras, better results, and the only way to do that is by giving having camera operators, or giving yourself a setup like the Vantage.
Michael, I mean, that's one of the key things about it, Michael, is that the Vantage and the new micro VRC controller, they're really enabling you to really improve your broadcast, the production value. it's a real, game changer in what it's enabling you to do. I mean,
well, no, I think so, and I think it's key because, I think we started with, YouTube and the internet, and we started taking the quality down, and I think now we're starting, everybody, including the vloggers and bloggers and even the influencers, are starting to say, hey, wait a second, we like what we're doing, we like how we're shooting it, but we want to make the quality better, and I think it's great. I think we're starting to see that quality is important again.
Yeah,
and another of the major benefits is actually efficiency and repeatability. If you're trying to produce similar programs again and again, you often want to reproduce exactly the same shot from day to day or from week to week.
So you can have it programmed for the same shot.
So you basically have, you can the control system has an unlimited number of stored shots.
Can you store an actual move, a camera move? So if I wanted to say open on, hey Peter, take this the single shot on me for a second. If I wanted to open, thank you. If I wanted to open, now I'm directing, by the way.
Yeah.
These guys love me. Now, let's say we wanted to open the show on this shot, but a wide shot, and then take a slow zoom into me. Can I program that?
You can. Again, it depends on the capabilities of the camera and the lens,
Right.
because some of them don't allow you to save the positions, but as long as you choose a camera and lens that has that capability built into them, then our control system can drive that, and you can do some fairly creative shots. You may have to do a pan, a tilt, and a zoom at the same time. Maybe you open on one person, and you automatically have the system pan and tilt to the people you're going to interview. You can do all of that within the control system.
I'm just thinking, like, imagine if the game show The Price is Right had this, with that big sweeping opening shot on a crane. They could have eliminated 3 positions, probably. I'm sure that the union doesn't want to hear that. But, I mean, realistically, tell them what they've won, Rod. How about, for in your mind, about the innovation, how far do you think this is ahead of everything else that's on the market?
Well, for me, I'm an end user.
Yeah.
I'm a cameraman out of Boston.
Right.
And so, I work with Vinten and I kind of test their stuff out.
That's kind of why I asked you instead of them, because their answer would have been, we're light years ahead, of course.
We're the best.
Exactly. So I work a lot in sports television, and we have a lot of pop-up studios that happen maybe close to the venues that we work at. And they want to control those cameras remotely, and they want to have one person controlling the whole operation.
Right.
And that's where this stuff comes in handy. And as you said, I want to reiterate, the Sony, the Panasonic, the cameras that have the systems that have panning and tilting built in to that box, you're stuck with that sensor, you're stuck with that lens. You might have a low light situation, you might have a small sensor situation where those cameras are just not performing the way you want them to. And being able to use something like this and mount any type of camera you want on that head and have shallow depth of field, large sensor camcorders, all of that really ups the production value of that TV show.
Right, so here it is, here's the Vantage, and you're right. I mean, here's the thing, you go with a PTZ, you can do pan, tilt, and zoom, you can have that one operator. What you can't have is the large sensors.
Correct.
What you can't have is the shallow depth of field. What you can't have is what we've become accustomed to as viewers now, of making television look like film with DSLRs. So I think that it makes a huge difference. And Peter, if I could trouble you again to not only take the camera I have right here, this little product shot, but then move the camera that's the single shot on me so we could see it. I got to get this thing to focus. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. All right, look at that. There it is in all its glory. That is the Vantage in action. There's so much movement, the autofocus doesn't like it. It keeps changing its focus. There you go. All right, so, and I'll show you the head. Oh, I did that so gracefully, didn't I? Sorry.
That was on the air.
I do know that. I'm watching the playback monitor. I didn't do, like I said, I didn't do that smoothly. I was being sarcastic when I said I did that gracefully. He's going to adjust to my humor, don't worry.
No, I like the humor.
All right.
Would you like
so here
to
you
show
go.
you this?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's
Yeah.
pick up the head and actually show it off.
Yeah.
Hold on, I got to zoom out. It actually, believe it or not, it's hard to operate a camera. It's not hard to operate a camera with a joystick. It's hard to operate a camera and talk and concentrate, and ask questions at the same time. You know what I've told them for years, seriously, no joke? We've used the Cue Ball. That's another Vitek Video Group product.
Yes.
It's a very high-end PTZ camera. We've used that for years in here. And I've said, put a Cue Ball on the end of this desk, and don't ever make me hand-hold the camera again while I'm interviewing people. And they say every year, we're going to do that next year. So next year, if you
We'll
can
have
put
one of these.
on
One of
the,
these.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Then they can control it, not me. Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, it's a really well-made, well-constructed product. It's this compact, lightweight form factor. Some of the key things, this is the cradle here. Like we said, the payload is 10 pounds. And inside here, I don't know if you can see, there's when you're setting up, there's a little spirit level bubble to enable you to correctly position the head. And over here on the side here, this will glow red. This is a tally light. So it's got a built-in tally light that glows red.
Very nice.
And so underneath here, we have all the different connectors. Would you like to run through these, Neil?
Okay, so very, very briefly, if you look at the bottom.
Hold it more towards me so I can.
So have you got that?
There we go.
So
hold on, I'll zoom in a little. Here we go. Nice slow zoom. Hold on.
So on my left, just here where my thumb is, we have the LAN-C connector.
There you go.
Yep.
We've then got the lens control connector. This is what allows us to connect to any type of lens, an ENG lens or an RS232 serial port. It's an Ethernet device, so the next port is just a standard Ethernet, so you can connect it to any Ethernet infrastructure. We have the power, and then we have the Genlock, and that's the important one for the VR set. That's what allows it to sync into a VR or an augmented reality set.
Very nice. Very nice, guys. Now, how hard is it to set this up, and how quick can you set this up when you're moving location to location? You know, I think of these PTZs, one thing about them that's really great is that they, and you know this, right? They set up very quickly. You can set them up in probably a half an hour. You drop them on tripods or you hang them somehow and you run a couple of Ethernet cables and you're good to go. What's the setup like for this?
Well, this has been one of our key objectives with our new control system, because the most difficult thing with connecting up to any remote camera is getting your control system to talk to it. So the first aspect is mounting it. We've got a simple screw, a threaded screw for you to mount it to either a tripod or to a wall mount. That doesn't take very long at all. The camera just mounts to the bottom of the cradle here, just screws to the bottom. You have 2 to 3 connectors to connect into it. The system will typically detect the system. So you'll have something that pops up on your screen that says, I can see this Vantage head, I can see this Panasonic PTZ camera. You then just say, yes, I want to use that one, I want to use this one. You put it on the screen, probably within 35 minutes, you can have an operational system. This was very important for us because we are seeing interest for these for people like wedding videographers as well. And they need to be able to take it on site, set 2 or 3 of these up, have a single operator, 3 or 4 positions, and have that operating within a few minutes.
I like that you looked at all the markets and you also looked at, I guess, the PTZs as your competition and said, what are the attributes of that we need to incorporate? And you realize, because 10 years ago, any head like this, it would have taken a month to set up, and nobody would have ever cared or even thought that we'd do pop-up studios and be using them there.
Well, I would say if I had this and I had cameras that were designed to be used for just a pop-up situation, I would leave the camera on here built and just stick it in the case.
I didn't mean how long does it take to mount the camera.
Yeah, how long does it take to
I agree.
interface into the
interface it and get it going,
Yeah,
and you know, and obviously you'd probably want to set it up and test it before you leave, pack it down, and then set it back up. And I imagine if you're doing it in a local environment, you take a switch and you route all the heads to a switch and then the switch to the controller.
Because it's standard Ethernet, then absolutely, you just plug it into a standard switch. If you're a studio, the infrastructure will already be there. You just plug it into it. But if you're traveling around, a small 5 or 8 port switch, just take that with you. Plug all of your heads into it. Plug the control system into it. You're ready to go.
You shoot for Nessun?
I do, yeah. Nessun sport, a lot of sports. That's my background, yeah.
And so they're using this a lot, I imagine.
They're using it in remote studios, yeah. They're using the PZTs, yeah. But this would be a very elegant solution for them to up their image quality, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one final thing I think that's worth mentioning. We've talked a lot about the Vantage and the new Micro VRC. One of the key things of all of our products is they all interoperate. So you can have a system that mixes our high-end robotics, our track system, and the Vantage head all into a system with Sony and Panasonic PTZ cameras as well.
Excellent. And I really think Vinten makes some great products across the whole line, and you've been around for a long time doing it, so everybody should check out Vinten. I like this product. It's the Vantage, and it's what everybody needs to step up their production quality and still have the capabilities of PTZs. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And so are you. You are awesome. You are why we do this, and you make this special. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with a whole lot more. Your live continuing coverage of NAB 2017 right after this. Don't go anywhere.